The first time my sister told the lie at the rehearsal dinner, nobody interrupted her. Kayla stood beneath a row of little glass lights at the Bluffside Inn, holding our grandmother's engagement ring toward the windows. Beyond her hand, Lake Michigan was turning dark blue. Everybody at the tables could see the stone. She smiled at Nathan's family and said, "Grandma pressed this into my hand the week before she died. She told me she wanted me to wear it when I got married." My mother looked down at her plate. My father reached for his water glass and missed it slightly. His fingers tapped the stem before closing around it. I was standing near the end of the table with a certified jeweler's record inside my purse. Kayla didn't know I had it. Nathan didn't know what it said. Most of the room didn't even know our grandmother's will named me as the person who was supposed to receive that ring. But my parents knew enough to understand what Kayla had just done. She had taken the family version of the story, polished it, and repeated it in front of both families. Then someone asked a simple question. "My name is Michelle Ortiz, and I'm 32 years old. If you've ever watched your family defend the person who hurt you because confronting them felt inconvenient, you'll understand why I stayed quiet as long as I did. Please like this video and subscribe." To explain why I had that document, I need to go back. Not just to my grandmother's death, but to how things worked in our family long before that. I grew up in Petoskey, Michigan, with my older sister Kayla. She was 3 years ahead of me and somehow always seemed farther than that. My parents, Denise and Barry, treated her like the first draft they were proud of. I was the extra copy they kept because throwing it away would look strange. Nobody said that directly. They didn't need to. When Kayla forgot our mother's birthday, Mom said, "She's overwhelmed at work." When I arrived 15 minutes late with a cake, Mom asked why I hadn't planned better. When Kayla borrowed Dad's truck and brought it back with an empty tank, he laughed. When I used it once and adjusted the driver's seat, he called me careless. It was made from small things. That was why it took me years to name it. Kayla got the bedroom with 2 windows because she was older. She chose where we ate on birthdays because she was particular. She got help with rent after moving out because she was building a life. When I moved out, Mom gave me a box of cleaning supplies and told me independence would be good for me. By adulthood, the pattern had become normal family weather. You checked it before making plans. I learned not to ask my parents for much. I became an insurance claims adjuster, which suited me more than I expected. I liked documents. I liked timelines. I liked the part where somebody could tell a dramatic story, but the photographs and receipts still had to match it. My husband, Ricky, says I can hear a missing detail. He'll be telling me about something that happened at work, and I'll say, "Wait, you left the office before or after your manager called?" He'll stare at me and say, "That's really what you took from this?" Most of the time, it is. Ricky and I lived in a small house on the south side of town. The kitchen floor tilted slightly toward the back door, and one cabinet wouldn't stay closed in humid weather. We'd been meaning to fix both problems for years. We never did. Our life wasn't exciting, but it was ours. We worked, made dinner, argued about whose turn it was to buy coffee, and visited my grandmother, Christine Quinn, on Sunday afternoons. Grandma Christine was my mother's mother. She lived alone in the same Petoskey house she'd been in for decades. It had pale siding, a narrow driveway, and a front step that needed repainting every other summer. She always said she'd handle it when the weather settled down. The weather never settled down enough for her. Her house smelled like lemon cleaner and the cinnamon gum she kept in the kitchen drawer. There were crocheted covers on the arms of the sofa and a round clock that ran 4 minutes fast. She knew it was wrong and refused to change it. "Being early hasn't injured anybody," she'd say. Grandma never made a public show of favoring me. I want to be clear about that. She didn't embarrass Kayla or compete with my mother. She just noticed things. If I mentioned an appointment, she remembered the date. If I helped her carry groceries, she thanked me like I'd done something instead of treating it as my natural function. When I got my insurance certification, she mailed me a card. We lived 10 minutes apart. The card said, "You finish what you start." That matters. I kept it in my desk at work. Grandma understood our family without discussing it. Sometimes Mom would praise Kayla for something I had arranged, and Grandma would glance at me across the table. She wouldn't correct Mom. She'd just give me a small nod. That nod helped more than it should have. The ring had been in her jewelry box for as long as I remembered. It was a vintage solitaire with a narrow gold band. My grandfather had given it to her when they got engaged in 1968. She wore it through most of her adult life. She also kept a cheap costume ring on a shelf near her bedroom mirror. It had a cloudy glass stone and a band that turned your finger green. Kayla and I used to play with that one when we were young. Grandma had rules about the real ring. "You can look," she'd say. "You don't wander off with it." She never sounded harsh. Still, we knew which ring was pretend. As Grandma got older, her knuckles swelled. She stopped wearing the engagement ring every day and kept it in a small blue velvet box. She'd bring it out sometimes while sorting her jewelry. Once I asked why she didn't have it resized. She rubbed the band with her thumb and said, "It was made for the hand I had then." That sounded exactly like her. Practical, but just sentimental enough. I didn't think of the ring as mine. I didn't think it belonged to Kayla either. It was Grandma's. That seemed obvious. Kayla had a different way of looking at family objects. She didn't ask who owned something. She asked who was using it. If nobody was using it, she treated that as an opening. She took Grandma's serving tray for a Christmas party and kept it for almost a year. When Grandma finally asked for it, Kayla said, "I thought you gave it to me." Grandma answered, "I gave you cookies on it." Mom laughed and said, "Well, Christine, you know how Kayla is. That sentence followed my sister everywhere. You know how Kayla is." It sounded like acceptance. In practice, it meant the rest of us had to absorb whatever she did. Kayla could turn a loan into a gift by waiting long enough. She could turn an insult into a misunderstanding by sounding wounded. She could turn a direct question into an attack on her character. My parents helped her do it. Dad usually went quiet first. Mom would explain what Kayla must have meant. Then Dad would agree that everyone needed to calm down. Kayla rarely had to defend herself for long. In 2021, something changed at Grandma's house. I noticed it, but I didn't understand it then. It was late summer. Ricky and I had gone over with groceries. Grandma was at the kitchen table trying to open a jar of peaches. Ricky took it from her, loosened the lid, and handed it back. She said, "Useful man, keep him." Ricky said, "I'm hoping she does." I put milk in the refrigerator and noticed Grandma wasn't wearing any rings. That wasn't unusual by itself. What caught my attention was the blue velvet box sitting beside her napkin. It was open and empty. "Are you cleaning your jewelry?" I asked. Grandma closed the box. "No, just putting things away." She slid it toward the center of the table, then changed her mind and placed it in her lap. I waited for more. She asked me whether the grocery store had been crowded. That was the end of it. A few weeks later, Kayla came to our parents' house for dinner, wearing a gold ring on her right hand. I saw it while she was cutting a bread roll. It looked like Grandma's engagement ring. I stared long enough that Kayla noticed. "What?" she asked. "Is that Grandma's?" She looked at the ring, then at me. She let me try it. "At dinner?" Kayla laughed. "Why are you being weird?" Mom was carrying a bowl from the kitchen. She set it down harder than necessary. "Michelle, don't start checking everybody's jewelry." I asked one question, and she answered it, Mom said. Kayla held out her hand. The ring sat neatly against the base of her finger. Grandma's ring had always been loose on Kayla when we tried it years before. I remembered her holding her fingers together so it wouldn't slide off. That night, it fit. I didn't know it had been permanently resized. I didn't know Kayla had taken it to Snyder & Sons Fine Jewelry on Lake Street. I didn't know she had signed her own name on an intake ticket. All I knew was that it looked different. "Did Grandma have the band changed?" I asked. Kayla pulled her hand back. She was curious how it would look on me. "That's not what I asked." Dad sighed before Kayla answered. "Can we eat one dinner without an interrogation?" Ricky looked at me. It was the same look he used when he knew I was right, but also knew I was outnumbered. I let it go. Later, while we loaded dishes into my parents' dishwasher, I asked Mom quietly, "Did Grandma really loan it to her?" Mom kept rinsing a plate. "Your grandmother knows where it is." That wasn't my question either. Michelle. She turned off the water and looked at me. "It's a ring." Kayla was curious. "Your grandmother got upset, and now everybody has decided to turn it into something larger. Why did Grandma get upset?" "Because she gets attached to things. It's her engagement ring." Mom dried her hands. "You always do this." "Do what?" "Push until someone says something they'll regret." I remember standing there with a wet fork in my hand. Kayla was laughing in the dining room. Dad and Ricky were talking about road construction. Everything around us sounded ordinary. Mom lowered her voice. "Grandma has the ring back. That's all you need to know." So I believed the ring was back at Grandma's house. I had no reason to think Mom was hiding anything beyond another family argument. That was common enough. Kayla would take something, Grandma would object, and Mom would smooth it over. I didn't ask Grandma directly. That choice bothered me later. At the time, asking felt intrusive. Grandma was private, especially when she was hurt. If she wanted me to know, I believed she would tell me. She never did. Over the next 2 years, her health became less predictable. There wasn't one dramatic decline. It happened in errands. She stopped driving at night. Then she stopped carrying laundry downstairs. Then I started picking up her prescriptions. Kayla visited too, but her visits had a different shape. She came with plans. She wanted Grandma to sort photographs, decide who got the china, and tell stories Kayla could use in social media posts. I came with groceries and a pen. Grandma kept lists on the back of envelopes, light bulbs, batteries, cat food for the neighbor's cat that had decided her porch belonged to him. "His name isn't Pumpkin," she told me once. "That's what the tag says. His name is Nuisance." She bought him the expensive food anyway. In January of 2024, Grandma died at 84. It happened early in the morning at the care facility where she'd spent her final weeks. Mom called me at 6:23. Her voice sounded flat. "She's gone." I sat up in bed and asked, "When?" "About 20 minutes ago." "Were you there?" There was a pause. "No." They called me. I looked toward the window. It was still dark outside. Was Kayla there? No, Michelle. Nobody was there. Mom sounded irritated, as if I'd assigned blame. I hadn't. Not yet. Ricky drove us to the facility. The roads had a thin layer of snow, and the plows hadn't reached our neighborhood. He kept both hands tight on the steering wheel. When we arrived, Mom and Dad were already in the hallway. Kayla came 10 minutes later wearing leggings, winter boots, and Grandma's engagement ring on her left hand. I saw it when she hugged Mom. For a moment, I thought I was mistaken. Kayla wasn't engaged. There was no reason for that ring to be on that finger. Then she turned toward me. Her left hand stayed against Mom's back. I didn't ask about it there. There was paperwork, there were phone calls. A nurse brought us coffee in foam cups. Dad couldn't find his reading glasses, though they were hanging from his shirt collar. The ring remained on Kayla's hand all morning. At the funeral home 2 days later, she wore it again. That was when I asked. We were alone near a rack of coat hangers. Kayla was checking her phone while the funeral director spoke with our parents. "Why are you wearing Grandma's ring?" She didn't look up. She gave it to me. When? The week before she died. I waited. Kayla locked her phone and met my eyes. "What? You never said anything. It wasn't about you. I didn't say it was. She wanted me to have it for when I got married. You're not engaged." Her mouth tightened. "Not officially." That was the first I'd heard about Nathan planning anything. They'd been together for a while, but Kayla had dismissed marriage whenever Mom mentioned it. I looked at the ring again. "Grandma told you that at the care facility?" "Yes, who was there?" Kayla gave a short laugh. "Oh my God, Michelle. Do you need a witness?" I asked. "Who was there?" "Nobody." We had a private conversation. Mom appeared beside us before I could answer. "What's going on?" Kayla said. "She's questioning me about the ring." Mom looked at my face, not Kayla's hand. "Not now. I'm asking because it belonged to Grandma." "And Grandma gave it to Kayla," Mom said. The speed of her answer stopped me. "You knew," Kayla told us. "That means Kayla told you. It doesn't mean you knew." Dad came over with our coats. "Michelle, this is not the place." I looked from him to Mom. "Did Grandma tell either of you?" Dad held my coat toward me. Your grandmother loved both of you. It was such a familiar kind of answer, broad enough to sound kind, empty enough to protect Kayla. I put on my coat and said nothing else. The will reading happened in February at Logan Hill's law office on Lake Street. The office was above a bookstore with narrow stairs and windows facing the bay. Snow had collected along the curb in gray ridges. Ricky came with me. Kayla brought Nathan. Mom and Dad sat between us as if Logan had arranged the chairs for a difficult mediation. He hadn't. Mom moved them herself. Most of the will was ordinary. Grandma left the house to Mom. Some savings were divided between Mom, Kayla, and me. She listed furniture, dishes, photographs, and a few pieces of jewelry. Then Logan reached the engagement ring. He adjusted his glasses and read, I give my engagement ring, as sized and appraised in Snyder & Son's most recent service record, to my granddaughter, Michelle Ortiz. Nobody spoke. I looked at Logan. Then I looked at Kayla's left hand. She was wearing the ring. Nathan leaned slightly toward her. Is that the same one? Kayla covered it with her other hand. Mom spoke first. There must be some mistake. Logan glanced down at the will. This document was signed and witnessed correctly. I mean, Christine was confused, Mom said. She already gave that ring to Kayla. Logan's eyes moved to Kayla. When did that occur? The week before she died, Kayla said. She put it in my hand herself. Her voice was steady. Honestly, I almost believed her. Logan folded his hands over the papers. Was that transfer documented? Kayla looked offended. She was my grandmother. I didn't make her sign a receipt. Dad shifted in his chair. Christine changed her mind. That's what happened. I turned to him. How do you know? Dad stared at the carpet. Mom answered for him. Because Kayla told us what Christine said. So nobody heard Grandma say it? Mom exhaled through her nose. Michelle, what are you trying to accomplish? I'm trying to understand the will. You understand it, Kayla said. You're upset because Grandma gave me something after she signed it. I looked at the page in Logan's hands. The wording bothered me more than the argument. Grandma hadn't written my engagement ring. She had included a jeweler, a sizing, and a service record. That wasn't sentimental language. It sounded like identification. Why does it mention Snyder & Sons? I asked. Logan paused. That is the description your grandmother requested. Why? I can't speculate about her private reasoning. Kayla stood and pulled on her coat. There's nothing to speculate about. Grandma gave it to me later. Mom stood too. We're not fighting over this. That meant I wasn't allowed to question it. Nobody was asking Kayla to give up anything. Dad picked up his folder. Let's not make Grandma's death ugly. I stayed seated. Ricky's knee pressed gently against mine under the table. Logan watched the three of them prepare to leave. His expression stayed professional, but he didn't close the will. Kayla buttoned her coat, then held her left hand against her chest. I'm keeping what Grandma gave me. She walked out with Nathan. My parents followed her. I remained in the chair, looking at that strange sentence. As sized and appraised in Snyder & Son's most recent service record. At first, I thought Grandma had simply been precise. A month later, I read it again. That was when I started wondering whether the sentence wasn't describing the ring at all. Maybe it was pointing me somewhere. I took my copy of the will home and put it in the top drawer of my desk. For 3 weeks, I didn't touch it. There were other things to handle. Grandma's utility accounts needed closing. Mom wanted help making an inventory of the house. Kayla wanted certain photographs before Mom listed anything for sale. Everybody had a task for me. On the first Saturday in March, I drove to Grandma's house with a roll of trash bags and a box of permanent markers. Mom was already there. Her car sat crooked in the driveway, leaving me barely enough space to pull in. Inside, every light was on. Mom stood in the dining room wrapping glass dishes in newspaper. Kayla was upstairs. I could hear drawers opening and closing above us. What's she doing? I asked. Going through the bedroom. By herself? Mom didn't look up. She knows what she's looking for. That's what worries me. Mom pressed newspaper around a small bowl. Please don't do this today. I set the markers on the table. Do what? Come in ready for a fight. I brought labels. You know what I mean, I did, but I wasn't ready for a fight. I was ready to see what remained. That felt different. I walked upstairs before Mom could stop me. Kayla was kneeling beside Grandma's dresser with 3 piles of jewelry boxes on the carpet. The blue velvet ring box sat near her knee. It was open. You found the box, I said. Kayla looked over her shoulder. It was right in the top drawer. Is anything inside it? You can see it's empty. She returned to sorting necklaces. I picked up the box. The lining had a shallow groove where the band had rested for years. A folded piece of tissue paper was tucked beneath the inner pad. Kayla watched me remove it. What are you doing? Checking the box. For what? I don't know yet. She sat back on her heels. That's a really strange thing to say. The tissue paper was blank. I put it back exactly as I'd found it. On the dresser sat a framed photograph of Grandma and my grandfather at an anniversary dinner. Grandma had one hand on his shoulder. The ring was visible, though the picture was too small to show much detail. I took out my phone and photographed the jewelry box and the framed picture. Kayla stared at me. Are you building a case? I'm keeping track of Grandma's things. Mom already made a list. Where is it? Downstairs, probably. I set the box beside the photograph. Kayla picked it up and dropped it into a cardboard carton marked donate. That isn't a donation, I said. It's an empty box. It belonged with the ring. The ring belongs with me. I took the box from the carton and placed it in the keep pile. Kayla's face changed. Not much, but enough. You need to stop acting like I stole something. I didn't say that. You keep implying it. I asked when Grandma gave it to you, and I told you. Did Grandma know the will still named me? Kayla stood. You think she forgot you? That's not what I asked. She changed her mind, Michelle. Maybe she didn't want to make a whole appointment with her lawyer while she was dying. She updated the will 2 years before she died. Exactly. Things change. I looked down at the empty box. Then why didn't she tell anyone? She told me. Mom appeared in the doorway. What is happening now? Kayla pointed at me. She's taking pictures and accusing me again. I didn't accuse her. Mom looked at my phone. Why are you photographing things? Because Grandma's belongings are being divided. We're making an inventory. Then there shouldn't be a problem. Mom's lips pressed together. Give me the box. I handed it to her. She held it for a second, then gave it to Kayla. Put it with the jewelry. I watched Kayla place it beside her purse. That answered a question I hadn't asked aloud. Mom wasn't trying to stay neutral. She was helping Kayla make possession look settled. I went downstairs and found the inventory on the kitchen counter. It was written in Mom's handwriting on a yellow legal pad. Dining set, china, silver tray, bedroom furniture, costume jewelry. There was no engagement ring. I took a photograph of that page, too. Mom came down behind me. You don't need pictures of everything. You said there was an inventory. There is. The ring isn't on it, because it's not part of the estate anymore. Logan said the bequest was still in the will. Logan reads documents. He wasn't there when Christine gave Kayla the ring. Neither were you. Mom turned toward the sink. She began arranging clean coffee cups that were already arranged. I'm not discussing it. That was the moment I made my first real decision. I wasn't going to keep asking questions my family could answer with opinions. I needed something that existed before Grandma died, something Kayla couldn't change by repeating herself. I left the house with 2 labeled boxes of kitchen items and the photographs on my phone. I didn't mention the decision to anyone except Ricky. He was in our garage replacing a windshield wiper when I got home. The old blade lay on the concrete beside him. How bad was it? He asked. Mom gave Kayla the ring box. He stopped working. The empty one? Yes. That feels pointed. It was. I showed him the photograph of the inventory. He read the list twice. Maybe your mom left the ring off because Kayla already has it. That's what she said. Do you believe her? I believe she wants that to be true. He leaned against the car. What do you want to do? I want to read the will again. You've read it. I read what it gives me. I didn't read when everything happened. Ricky nodded slowly. You want a timeline? Yes. That evening, I cleared our dining table and laid out everything I had: the will, the funeral paperwork, the inventory photograph, a printed copy of Grandma's obituary. I opened the calendar on my phone and started adding dates. The will was signed in 2022. Grandma entered the care facility near the end of 2023. Kayla claimed the gift happened 1 week before Grandma died. The ring had fit Kayla in 2021. That last detail wasn't on paper. It was only something I remembered. I wrote it on a sticky note anyway. Ricky made coffee and placed a mug beside me. Could the band have always fit her? He asked. No, you're sure? I remember us trying it when we were younger. It was loose. Hands change. They do. I looked at the photograph I'd taken at dinner in 2021. I hadn't meant to photograph the ring that night. Mom had asked me to take a picture of the table because she liked the centerpiece. Kayla's hand appeared near the bread basket. I enlarged the image until it became grainy. The band sat close against her finger. Ricky leaned over my shoulder. That doesn't prove when it was resized. No, but it was resized. It looks that way. He straightened. Do jewelry stores keep records? The wording from the will sat in front of me. Most recent service record. They must, I said. Which store was named? Snyder and Sons. Ricky knew the place. Everybody local did. It was a narrow jewelry store on Lake Street with a dark green awning and gold letters on the front window. Timothy Snyder had taken it over from his father years ago. My parents bought their anniversary gifts there. Grandma went there for watch batteries and clasp repairs. I searched the store's website. There was nothing about requesting old records. There was a phone number and business hours. Ricky pulled out the chair across from me. You could call. I could. I didn't pick up my phone. Calling a jeweler and asking about a dead woman's ring felt different from rereading a will. It meant I was no longer just confused. I was checking whether my sister lied. Ricky waited. What? I asked. You're trying to decide if finding out makes you disloyal. I looked at him. I'm trying to decide if I'm making something out of nothing. Those aren't the same thing. My mother thinks they are. Your mother thinks peace means Kayla gets tired of the subject. I smiled despite myself. That's accurate. He tapped the will with one finger. Christine named the store. You didn't. I called Snyder and Sons the next morning from my car before work. A woman answered and identified herself as Marlene. I told her I had a question about a piece of jewelry mentioned in an estate document. What kind of question? She asked. I need to know whether an old service record exists. Do you have the ticket number? No. The original customer's phone number? I have her old home number. Is the customer available to authorize the request? She died in January. Marlene's tone softened. I'm sorry, thank you. Records involving an estate can be complicated. Are you the personal representative? No. I'm named in the will for the specific item. Do you have documentation? Yes. She was quiet for a moment. I heard a keyboard. You'd probably need to speak with Mr. Snyder. He isn't here today. When will he be in? Thursday morning. I wrote it down. Should I bring the will? I can't promise he'll release anything. Bring whatever you have. That wasn't confirmation. Still, she hadn't said there was no record. On Thursday, a windstorm knocked out power near my office. Half our systems went down, and my supervisor sent us home before lunch. I drove toward Lake Street with the will in my work bag. Then I passed the jeweler. I kept going for 2 blocks before pulling into a public lot. I sat there with both hands on the steering wheel. The problem wasn't fear of Kayla. Not exactly. I could already hear Mom if she found out. You went behind your sister's back. You embarrassed the family. You couldn't let Grandma rest. My whole life, they had treated checking Kayla's story as a greater offense than anything the check might reveal. I took the will from my bag and read the clause again. Then I drove back. Snyder and Sons was quiet inside. Glass cases ran along both walls. A small bell sounded when I opened the door. A man stood behind the back counter speaking to an older couple about a bracelet clasp. I recognized Timothy Snyder from around town. He had silver hair, narrow glasses, and a habit of resting both palms on the counter while listening. Marlene greeted me. "I called about Christine Quinn's ring," I said. Her expression became careful. "Mr. Snyder is with someone right now. I can wait." I sat in a chair near a display of watches. The store smelled faintly of metal polish and coffee. After the couple left, Timothy came over. "Michelle?" "Yes. I remember you. Barry's younger daughter." There it was, even from the jeweler. The younger daughter. He meant nothing by it, so I let it pass. "I'm sorry about your grandmother," he said. "Christine was a customer here for a long time." "Thank you." Marlene had apparently explained the request. Timothy glanced at my work bag. "You brought the document?" I handed him the copy of the will. He read the ring clause without commenting. Then he read it again. "Do you know why she wrote it this way?" I asked. His eyes remained on the page. "I can't discuss another customer's service history without proper authorization. She's dead. That's why I need to be especially careful. I'm named right there. I see that. Can you at least tell me whether a service record exists?" He looked toward Marlene. She was working at the other end of the counter, far enough away not to hear. Timothy lowered his voice. "Talk to Logan Hill." "Why?" "He drafted this?" "Yes." "Then ask him to contact me." I took the will back. "Would he need to contact you if there were no record?" Timothy gave me a tired little smile. "You said you work in insurance." "I do. So you know better than to turn a careful answer into an admission." I had to try. "I know." He walked me to the door, which felt like a polite way of ending the conversation. Outside, I stood under the green awning and called Logan's office. His assistant told me the first available appointment was the following Tuesday. I took it. Before that appointment happened, Kayla announced her engagement. She did it at my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon in April. Mom had invited Ricky and me for dinner but refused to say why. When we arrived, Nathan's car was already outside. Kayla waited until everyone had a drink. Then she held out her left hand. The ring she showed us wasn't Grandma's. It was a new diamond ring with a white gold band. Mom made a sound that was almost a squeal. She hugged Kayla, then Nathan. Dad opened a bottle of sparkling wine he'd been hiding in the refrigerator. I congratulated them both. Kayla watched my face while I looked at the new ring. "You like it?" she asked. "It's beautiful." Nathan chose it himself. Nathan smiled, with some highly specific guidance. Kayla laughed and kissed his cheek. For an hour, everything stayed pleasant. They'd chosen the Bluffside Inn for the wedding. It would happen the following June. Kayla already had a photographer, a florist, and a list of colors Mom was apparently supposed to recognize by name. During dessert, Mom asked whether she planned to wear Grandma's ring too. Kayla touched the engagement ring on her left hand. "I might wear Grandma's on my right. I want her with me." Mom's eyes filled. She would love that. I looked at Dad. He kept eating cake. Nathan said, "We need to get both rings appraised for the venue paperwork anyway." "What venue paperwork?" Dad asked. "The event insurance," Nathan said. "Bluffside requires declared values for anything over their standard limit." Kayla already asked about using Christine's ring in some of the photos. Kayla waved one hand. "It's just paperwork." My attention sharpened. "Where are you getting it appraised?" She turned toward me. "Why?" I was curious. Snyder and Sons, probably. That's where Grandma went. Mom set down her fork. "We're not doing this tonight." I asked where she was going. "And I answered," Kayla said. "Can you leave it alone now?" I looked at the new engagement ring, then at her empty right hand. The old ring wasn't there that afternoon. For the first time, Kayla had created a reason for Snyder and Sons to look at it again. She didn't seem worried. That told me she either knew the store had nothing useful, or she had no idea what the store kept. At my appointment, Logan listened without interrupting while I explained the empty ring box, the old photograph, and my visit to Snyder and Sons. When I finished, he took off his glasses. You're asking whether Timothy has a record connected to the wording in Christine's will. Yes, that's a fair question. Can you ask him? I can ask what he requires before releasing information. That doesn't mean you'll receive it. Understood. Logan opened Grandma's file and found a yellow note attached to a copy of the will. I couldn't read the handwriting from where I sat. He looked at it for several seconds. "What does that say?" I asked. "It's a drafting note. About the ring?" "Yes." He closed the file. My back went straight. "Can I see it?" "Not today." "Why not?" "Because I need to determine what belongs to the estate file and what remains protected." I didn't like the answer, but it was the first small confirmation I had. The strange wording hadn't appeared by accident. Logan had a separate note about it. "Will you call Timothy? I'll speak with him." "When?" "This week." I stood and returned my copy of the will to my bag. At the door, Logan said, "Michelle." I turned. If your grandmother intended that clause to be simple, she would have written it simply. I waited for him to add something. He didn't. A few weeks later, in May, the clasp on my watch broke. Ricky had given it to me for our anniversary, so I took it to Snyder & Sons instead of replacing it. Timothy was behind the counter when I walked in. He recognized me immediately. "I haven't forgotten," he said. "I'm actually here about my watch." He inspected the clasp and wrote an intake slip. While I signed it, he said, almost to himself, "Christine always signed exactly the same way." I looked up. "You still have her signatures?" Timothy stopped moving. Then he set down his pen. "I still have Christine's whole file." The words landed quietly between us. I didn't ask what was inside. Not yet. I took my claim ticket, walked back to my car, and wrote down exactly what he had said before I could soften it in my memory. Then I called Logan. He answered on the second ring. "What exactly did Timothy say?" "That he still has Grandma's whole file. Anything else?" "No." He realized he'd said too much. Logan was quiet. "Did he mention a service date?" "No." "A ticket number?" "No." "He didn't identify who brought the ring in?" "No." Logan let out a slow breath. "Good. Don't call him again today." "Why is that good?" "Because he was careful. Let him stay careful." I watched two women leave the bakery across the street. One held a white pastry box against her coat. "Can you authorize him to show me the file?" "I can confirm that you're named in the bequest. Timothy will decide what he can release. You said you'd speak with him weeks ago." "I did." "And?" "He has records that may relate to the clause." The word may irritated me. He just told me he has her whole file. A file can contain watch batteries and necklace repairs. Then why does everybody become careful when I mention the ring? That's a reasonable question. That isn't an answer. "No," Logan said, "it isn't." He asked me to email a photograph of my identification and the full page containing the bequest. I sent both from my car. Then I drove home with my broken watch still at the store. Ricky was making dinner when I walked in. He had a cutting board balanced across the sink because every other surface was covered with grocery bags. "What happened?" he asked. I confirmed there's a file. "That's good. I don't know what's in it." "That part is less good." I told him about Logan's instructions. Ricky moved a bag of potatoes from the table so I could sit. "Do you think the file shows Kayla had it resized?" "I think it might." "What else could it show?" "Grandma could have brought it in herself." "For what?" "An appraisal. Cleaning, repair, anything. But the will says sized and appraised." "I know." He set the knife down. "Would your grandmother know the jeweler kept those records?" "She'd been going there for years, so she knew enough to describe the file." "Yes." "Then someone should let you see it." It sounded simple when he said it. Family disputes make simple things feel aggressive. I had proof that a record existed. I still felt rude for wanting to read it. That Friday, Mom called while I was reviewing storm damage photographs at work. "Are you busy?" she asked. "I'm working." "This will only take a minute." It never did. She said the probate paperwork was moving slowly. Logan had sent her another list of items needing confirmation. "What items?" I asked. "Household things, the savings account, the jewelry." I lowered the photograph I'd been holding. What jewelry? Your grandmother's jewelry. Does the list include the engagement ring? Mom paused. I don't have it in front of me. You called me about the paperwork. I called because I need your signature on a distribution acknowledgement. What does it say? That you received what you were supposed to receive. I haven't. You received the boxes from the house. The will doesn't leave me an engagement ring box. Her voice hardened. We went over this. No, you told me what Kayla said. Your sister isn't lying. Then the service record should support her. The silence lasted long enough for me to hear someone speaking near Mom. I couldn't make out the words. Who's with you? I asked. Nobody. A car door closed on her end. Are you at Kayla's? That has nothing to do with this. Does she know you called? Michelle, I'm trying to close your grandmother's estate. I don't want this dragged out over one item. It isn't one item if the will names it. Everything has to become a technicality with you. I'm not signing something that isn't true. Mom's breathing changed. Logan said that? Said what? That you shouldn't sign. I haven't asked him. Then call him before you decide I'm doing something wrong. She hung up. I called Logan's office immediately. His assistant transferred me after a short hold. Don't sign it yet, he said. What is it? A standard acknowledgement, but yours needs different language. Why did Mom send me the standard one? I sent a packet of forms to Denise in her role as personal representative. I also sent instructions. Did the instructions say the ring was unresolved? They said the specific bequest required separate confirmation. So she knows. She knows the item hasn't been closed. I leaned back in my chair. Can she close the rest without it? Most of it, yes. An estate can resolve separate items at different times. Can she list the ring as a gift made before Grandma died? She can report that claim. That doesn't make the claim conclusive. What would make it conclusive? Documentation, a credible witness, or an uncontested acknowledgement from the person named in the will. The last part stayed with me. She wants my signature. I can't tell you what Denise intended. You can tell me what my signature would do. It could be presented as evidence that you accepted the distribution and gave up any remaining objection. I looked toward my supervisor's office. The door was closed. Why didn't Mom tell me that? You'd need to ask her. We both knew how useful that would be. Did Kayla submit anything in writing? Not through my office. What about Mom? She reported that Christine transferred the ring before death. Based on what? The same statement you heard at the will reading. Kayla's statement. Yes. I wrote that down. Logan told me he had sent Timothy written confirmation of my status. Timothy had agreed to review the archived file. Some older service tickets were stored off-site, so it could take a few weeks. Will I see the entire file? I asked. You'll receive whatever Timothy determines relates to the bequest. That sounds narrower. It may be narrower. Could Mom stop him from releasing it? Not if he has a lawful basis to provide it. Does he? I believe so. It wasn't certainty, but it was more than I'd had before. That evening, Mom brought the acknowledgement form to my house. She arrived without calling. Ricky opened the door while I was changing out of my work clothes. Your mother's here, he said from the hallway. His tone told me she wasn't there socially. Mom stood in our kitchen with a manila envelope on the table. She kept her purse over her shoulder. I brought the form, she said. I spoke to Logan. I assumed you would. He said I need different language. Mom moved the envelope closer to me. It's a standard form. Not for an unresolved bequest. Nothing is unresolved except in your mind. I opened the envelope. A small yellow tab marked the signature line. Mom had already signed as personal representative. The form listed cash, household goods, photographs, and personal effects. It didn't name the ring. Near the bottom, it said, I acknowledged full satisfaction of my distributions under the will. I placed it back on the table. I'm not signing this. Mom stared at me. You're delaying everything. Logan said the rest can close separately. Of course he did. He gets paid while this stays open. That's not why. You don't know that. Neither did she. Ricky stayed near the sink, drying a glass that had already been dry when she arrived. Mom noticed him. This is a family matter. He lives here, I said. I'm aware. He also knows what's happening. Her eyes returned to mine. You told him all of it? Yes, that was private. Grandma's will isn't a secret. Your sister's engagement is already stressful. She doesn't need people thinking she took something. Then she shouldn't mind a record being checked. Mom pulled out a chair but didn't sit. Her hand remained on the back. Kayla visited Christine alone. Christine gave her the ring. You weren't there. Neither were you. I know my mother. So did I. She wanted Kayla to wear it at her wedding. Kayla wasn't engaged yet. She knew it was coming. Did Grandma say that to you? Mom looked toward the dark window over the sink. She talked about both of you getting married. I was already married. You know what I mean. No, I don't. Mom's fingers tightened on the chair. Why can't you let your sister have one meaningful thing? The question came out so naturally that she didn't hear what it revealed. I looked at the unsigned form. One meaningful thing? You know how close they were. Grandma and Kayla? Yes. I waited. Mom became impatient. What? I went to Grandma's every week. This isn't a contest. You just made it one. I'm saying Kayla had a different relationship with her. What kind? Mom lifted her purse higher on her shoulder. She was the first granddaughter. There it was. Not evidence. Rank. Kayla had arrived first, so whatever she wanted could be made to feel traditional. I slid the envelope toward Mom. I'm not signing. She left it on the table. You'll change your mind. No. Think about what you're doing to the family. I am. Mom walked out without saying goodbye. Ricky waited until her car backed down the driveway. She knew what the form would do, he said. I think so. You always tell me not to claim more than I can prove. I do. He pointed at the yellow signature tab. So prove it. I placed the form in a plastic sleeve and added it to the folder in my desk. The next morning, Kayla called. You upset Mom. She brought me a form I couldn't sign. It's probate paperwork. It says I received everything. You did receive everything, not according to the will. She made an irritated sound. I'm not giving you Grandma's ring. I haven't asked you to. You're digging through store records. That answered another question. Mom had told her. Why does that worry you? I asked. It doesn't. It's creepy. Checking a document named in the will is creepy. You went into Grandma's house and photographed my things. The ring box was in Grandma's dresser. It goes with my ring. According to you. According to Grandma. Then the file should be fine. Kayla became quiet. For a few seconds, I heard only road noise. Are you driving? I asked. That's not your business. Neither is this call if you won't answer. Answer what? Did you ever take Grandma's ring to Snyder & Sons? She didn't respond immediately. Then she said, Grandma used that store for everything. I asked if you took it. I might have dropped something off for her. I don't remember every errand. That was new. At the will reading, she'd said Grandma gave her the ring 1 week before she died. Now she was allowing for an earlier trip to the jeweler. What did you drop off? I asked. I just said I don't remember. Was it the engagement ring? Michelle, this is exactly why nobody tells you anything. Because I remember the answer? Because you twist normal things. What normal thing am I twisting? I helped Grandma. You weren't the only person who did things for her. I never said I was. You act like it. I let the silence stay there. Kayla filled it. You're jealous she chose me. That was the explanation she wanted. Jealousy made the documents irrelevant. It made Mom's form harmless. It made every question about my character. I'll talk to you later, I said. No, you'll talk to me now. I'm at work. You answered. I thought it might be important. It is important. You're trying to damage my wedding over a ring. Your wedding is more than a year away. Planning has already started. I'm not involved in your planning. You're supposed to be my sister. The sentence would have carried more weight if she'd used it before needing something. "What are you asking me to do?" I said. "Stop contacting Snyder and Sons." "No." Her voice went flat. "Then don't expect to be part of everything." She ended the call. 2 days later, Mom removed me from the family group chat about Kayla's wedding. Dad texted me separately. "Your mom thinks everyone needs space." I called him. "Do you agree?" He took so long to answer that I checked whether the call had dropped. "I think this has gotten out of hand," he said. "Which part?" "The arguing." "Do you know what's in the jeweler's file?" "No." "Do you know why Grandma wrote the clause that way?" "No." "Then what do you think I should do?" "Trust your sister." "Why?" "Because she's your sister. That isn't evidence." Dad sighed. "Not everything is a claim investigation. No, claims investigations have people willing to answer questions." He went silent. I regretted the sharpness, but not enough to take it back. Finally, he said, "Your mother wants the estate closed. So do I. Then sign the paper. It says something untrue. It's just a form." "Did you read it?" Another pause. "No. Read it before you call me again." I ended the call. For the next few weeks, nobody in my family spoke to me except through short messages about the house. Meanwhile, Kayla began posting wedding plans online. One afternoon, Ricky showed me a photograph from her engagement page. Kayla sat beside Nathan near the water. Her new engagement ring was on her left hand. Grandma's ring was on her right. The caption said, "Carrying generations of love into our next chapter." Nathan had shared it. So had Mom. I enlarged the photograph and studied the old ring. The band looked narrow and smooth. It fit Kayla perfectly. Under the picture, someone asked where it came from. Kayla replied, "My grandmother gave it to me just before we lost her." That was no longer a private claim at a funeral home. She was building the wedding around it. If the story was false, Nathan was repeating it without knowing. His family would repeat it too. By the time the wedding arrived, Grandma's ring wouldn't just be something Kayla possessed, it would be evidence of a blessing she had assigned herself. I took a screenshot. Then I printed the photograph, the caption, and Kayla's reply. I placed them behind the unsigned probate form. The next morning, Logan called. "Timothy located the archived file," he said. I closed my office door. "Can I see it?" "He needs you to come in and make a formal request." "When?" "Next Thursday." "Why can't he email it?" "Because the file contains more than one customer name." I stopped writing. What does that mean? It means Christine isn't the only person identified in the service records. Who else is? "I haven't seen the file yet." "Has Timothy?" "Yes." "Did he tell you?" "No." "He said you should make the request in person." I looked at the date on my calendar. 1 week. "Will you be there?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because after reviewing the will again, I believe I should be." I asked for the earliest appointment Timothy had. Thursday morning, I arrived 15 minutes early. The store hadn't opened yet, so I waited beside a planter on Lake Street. Delivery trucks moved through the intersection. Someone nearby was roasting coffee, and the smell kept drifting toward me whenever the wind changed. Logan arrived carrying a brown leather folder. "You didn't have to wait outside," he said. "The door's locked." He checked his watch. "We're early." "I know." He gave me the look people use when they understand that waiting somewhere else wasn't possible. At exactly 10, Marlene unlocked the front door. Timothy stood behind the counter with a gray archive box. My name was written on a sheet of paper taped to the top. He turned the lock again after we entered. "I'd rather do this before regular business starts," he said. "Why?" "Privacy." The answer didn't settle me. He led us to a small consultation room at the back. It held a round table, 4 chairs, and a lamp used for examining stones. There were no windows. Timothy set the box on the table but didn't open it. "I need to explain what I can provide," he said. Logan sat across from him. "Michelle is the named recipient of the specific item. I have your letter confirming that." "Then what's the issue?" Timothy looked at me. "The file includes repairs unrelated to the engagement ring. I won't release those records. It also includes personal information belonging to another customer." Kayla, I said. He didn't confirm it. That person hasn't authorized release. Logan opened his folder and removed a copy of the will. The clause identifies the most recent service record. Michelle can't verify the item without seeing the record the clause references. I agree she should see that record, then show it to her. Timothy rested one hand on the archive box. The problem is deciding which record Christine meant. I leaned forward. How many are there? More than one entry involving the ring. Who brought it in? That's what we're here to determine. His wording felt deliberate. He wasn't going to give me anything before placing it on the table. He opened the box. Inside were paper folders arranged alphabetically. Some had been repaired with tape. Christine's folder was thicker than I expected. Timothy removed it and opened the first page. "This is a customer account started by my father," he said. "Most entries are ordinary service. Watch batteries, chain repairs, cleaning." He turned several pages without letting me read them. Then he stopped at a photograph. The ring lay beside a small measurement card. The photograph had been printed on ordinary office paper. The date beneath it was from 2012. Christine had the setting checked after she caught it on a sweater, Timothy said. No damage to the stone. We tightened one prong. He turned another page. "This appraisal is from 2016. Christine requested it after reviewing her homeowner's coverage." The page showed the solitaire from several angles. The band looked slightly worn near the bottom. "Was it resized then?" I asked. "No." Timothy found another entry from 2019. That one recorded polishing and inspection. Nothing about Kayla. I began wondering whether I had imagined the significance of everything. Then Timothy closed Christine's folder. "There's a second file," he said. He reached into the box and removed a thinner folder. The label faced him. Logan watched his hands. "Is that the other customer name?" he asked. "Yes." "Does the file concern Christine's ring?" "Yes." Timothy turned the folder around. Kayla Ortiz was written across the tab. I didn't touch it. For several seconds, none of us spoke. The name itself changed something. This wasn't an errand recorded casually under Grandma's account. The store had created a separate customer file for my sister. "When was that opened?" I asked. 2021. I looked at Logan. His expression stayed neutral, but he'd stopped holding his pen. Timothy opened Kayla's folder. The first page was a customer information form. Kayla's address at the time appeared near the top. Her phone number was beneath it. The second page was an intake ticket. I recognized her handwriting before I read the name. Kayla's capital K leaned backward. She wrote the final A in Ortiz too sharply, almost like a small number 2. I'd seen that signature on birthday cards, loan applications Mom asked me to witness, and notes Kayla left on Grandma's kitchen counter. The ticket was dated August of 2021. "May I read it?" I asked. Timothy slid the folder toward me. The paper had 3 copies layered together, white on top, then yellow, then pink. The white copy carried the original writing. The item description read, "Vintage yellow gold solitaire engagement ring, 1 round center stone." Under requested service, Timothy had written, "Permanently resize band to customer's measured right ring finger. Inspect setting. Clean and polish." I read it again. "Permanently resize. Not try on. Not curiosity. Customer's measured right ring finger. Kayla's finger." "Who wrote the service description?" I asked. I did. "Do you remember the visit?" Timothy looked at the ticket. "I remember parts of it." "Was Grandma here?" "No." My hand tightened around the edge of the folder. Did Kayla say the ring belonged to her? She said it was a family ring. That isn't what I asked. No, she didn't say it belonged to her. Logan moved his chair closer to the table. "What did she say about authorization?" Timothy pointed to a handwritten note near the bottom. "Customer states grandmother approves sizing for family use." I read it silently. "Did you call Grandma?" I asked. "No. Why not? Kayla was an adult from a family we'd served for years. She had the ring in her possession. She said Christine approved the work. Did she?" "I can't answer that. Did Grandma ever tell you she approved it?" "No." The room felt smaller. At dinner that same year, Kayla had told me Grandma was curious how the ring looked on her. Mom had said Grandma had it back. The shop record showed something else. Kayla had carried the ring into town, opened a customer account in her own name, and had the band permanently changed for her own hand. Then she signed the ticket. I turned the page. A second form recorded the measurements before and after the work. The band had been reduced by more than 1 full size. A notation said the original shank showed age-related thinning, so the alteration required added gold. Could that be reversed? I asked. Yes, Timothy said, but not by stretching it back. We'd need to add material and rebuild the lower band. So it wasn't a temporary adjustment. No. Could Kayla have misunderstood? Timothy looked directly at me. I explained the work before she signed. That was the turn. Until then, part of me had allowed room for confusion. Maybe Kayla dropped the ring off for Grandma. Maybe somebody at the store assumed the finger measurement was hers. Maybe Mom had described the argument badly. There was no confusion on that page. Kayla requested a permanent change to Grandma's engagement ring. She requested it for her own finger. She signed beneath the request. If you've ever had to let paperwork speak because your family wouldn't, leave the word record in the comments. I looked at the payment line. Who paid? Cash. Do you remember who provided it? Kayla. Did she pick up the ring? Yes. Did anyone else come with her? Not that I recall. Logan turned to Timothy. Is this the most recent service record that existed when Christine signed her will? Timothy reached for Christine's folder again. For the ring, yes. Any later record before the will was executed? No. And Christine knew about this ticket? Timothy hesitated. She came into the store several months later. For the ring? She asked for a copy of its service history. I looked at him. Did she say why? No. She gave me the item description and the approximate service date. I located both files. Did you show her Kayla's ticket? I printed the service history, including this page, including the service description and customer signature. When was that? February of 2022. Logan opened Grandma's file and found the entry. It recorded a document request, but no jewelry service. Grandma had gone to Snyder & Sons 6 months after Kayla's resizing visit. She had asked for the history. Later that year, she updated her will. I looked at Logan. When did you meet with her? He didn't answer immediately. I need to review my appointment records before giving you a date. Was it after February? Yes. The connection was obvious, but nobody stated it yet. Grandma learned the store had a signed record. Then she wrote that store's record into her will. Why didn't she just take the ring back? I asked. Timothy removed his glasses and cleaned them with a cloth. I can't tell you what happened inside her family. You saw her after she found the ticket. Yes. Was she angry? He put his glasses back on. She was quiet. That doesn't tell me much. She was always quiet in public. Timothy considered that. She asked whether resizing weakened the ring. What did you tell her? That the work was done correctly, but repeated sizing can affect an older band. Did she ask you to reverse it? No. Did she ask what size it had been before? Yes. I pictured Grandma sitting in that store. She would have kept her purse in her lap. She would have thanked Timothy even if the answer hurt. What else did she ask? Whether the original measurements would stay in our records. I stopped. What did you say? I told her we keep service files. For how long? At that time, I told her permanently. Logan wrote something in his folder. I looked again at Kayla's signature. Grandma hadn't stumbled across a strange sentence years later. She had located the record herself. She had asked whether it would remain. Whatever she intended, she had built it around a document Kayla created. Can I have a copy? I asked. Timothy's eyes moved to Logan. You can have the pages relating to the ring. I'll redact contact information that isn't necessary. I need the signature visible. It will be. I also need the measurements. Yes. And the date. Yes. He took the folder to the copier. As soon as the consultation room door closed, I turned to Logan. You knew there was a drafting note. I did. Did the note mention this ticket? It referred to the most recent Snyder service record. That sounds like it did. I need to compare the language. You drafted it. More than 2 years ago. You remember why she asked for that clause? He closed his folder. I remember Christine being precise. That's what I thought too. This isn't just precision. No. Was she trying to leave me evidence? Logan looked toward the closed door. I won't guess before I've reviewed my notes. You already believe it. That's why you came. I came because the clause required interpretation. That isn't the whole reason. No, he said, it isn't. Timothy returned with several copied pages. He placed them beside the original and checked each line. Then he stamped the copies. The stamp identified Snyder and Sons and stated that the pages were true copies of records kept in the ordinary course of business. Timothy signed beneath it and added the date. Does that make them certified? I asked. It confirms they match our records. He handed them to me. The paper felt warm from the copier. The top page showed Kayla's name. The next showed the permanent resizing instructions. Her signature appeared at the bottom. I placed the pages inside a clear sleeve Logan provided. Does Kayla know I requested this? I asked. No, Timothy said. Does my mother? Not from me. What happens if Kayla comes in? She's a customer. We serve customers. Would you tell her I have this? Not unless I'm required to. Logan added, don't assume it will stay private forever. I don't. He asked whether I planned to confront Kayla. I don't know. That was true. I had wanted confirmation. Now I had it, and confirmation created more questions. Why had Grandma stayed silent after finding out? Why had Mom told me the ring was returned? Why had Dad supported a deathbed story he never witnessed? Most of all, why had Kayla waited until Grandma died to say the ring had become hers? Outside the store, Logan asked me to walk with him. His office was only a short distance away. We crossed Lake Street and stopped near a bench facing the water. You should keep the certified copy somewhere secure, he said. I will. Make a digital scan. I will. Don't write on it. I know how records work. I'm sure you do. I held my work bag against my side. What can this actually do? It establishes that Kayla possessed the ring in 2021 and requested permanent resizing. Does it establish ownership? Not by itself. So she can still say Grandma approved it. She can. And she can say Grandma gave it to her later. Yes. The answer frustrated me. Then what changed? Your position. How? Before today, you had an unusual bequest and 2 conflicting family stories. Now you have a dated business record showing that the ring was altered for Kayla years before the claimed gift. That proves she lied about how she got it. It proves her current description is incomplete. That's careful. Careful matters here. A gull landed near the bench and began pulling at a paper wrapper. I lowered my voice. Do you believe Grandma wanted me to find this? Logan looked toward the jeweler's green awning. I believe she expected someone to read the clause. Why not tell me herself? She may have thought telling you would force you into a fight while she was alive. Instead, she left it for after she died. She left a record. I looked down at the bag containing Kayla's signature. There was an important difference. A family story could be softened. A conversation could be denied. A signed service ticket stayed where it was filed. Logan asked me to give him until August to review the drafting notes and probate status. Don't contact my family yet, I said. I won't discuss your request unless administration requires it. What does that mean? It means I won't announce what you found. It also means I can't conceal a relevant estate document if the issue must be addressed. I nodded. That was fair. I drove straight home and scanned every page. I saved the files in 2 places and put the certified copy in a document envelope. Ricky read it at the kitchen table. When he reached the signature, he leaned back. She did this 3 years before Christine died. Yes. And she told everyone Christine gave it to her the last week. Yes. He looked at the service description again. Your grandmother knew. By February of the next year. What did she do? Changed her will. Ricky touched the edge of the plastic sleeve. Your mom knew the ring fit Kayla back then. She knew Grandma was upset. That isn't the same as knowing about this ticket. No. I said it carefully. I still didn't know what Mom knew. Ricky watched my face. You're going to ask her. Eventually. Why not tonight? Because she'll call Kayla before I finish the first question. He couldn't argue with that. I gathered the pages and returned them to the envelope. For the next several days, I carried the certified copy in my work bag. I didn't trust the desk drawer anymore. Mom had a key to our house for emergencies, and I wasn't ready to ask for it back. On Sunday, she texted about another box from Grandma's kitchen. I replied that I could collect it after work Monday. She sent a thumbs up. No mention of the ring. No mention of the unsigned form. When I arrived Monday evening, Dad was in the garage. Mom had left the box beside the side door. Dad wiped his hands on a rag. Your mother said you're still refusing the paperwork. I'm waiting for corrected language. He nodded as though I'd confirmed something disappointing. I lifted the box. Dad, do you remember the dinner when Kayla wore Grandma's ring? He looked toward the house. What dinner? In 2021. Mom said Grandma had the ring back. His eyes returned to me. Why are you asking about that now? Because I want to know if Mom was telling the truth. Dad folded the rag once, then again. Talk to your mother. Were you there when Grandma found out it had been resized? His face went still. It lasted only a second. Then he opened the garage door wider and said, You should go home before the weather turns. I put the box in my car and waited. Dad stayed inside the garage. What happened when she found out? I asked. He picked up a socket wrench from the workbench. I don't remember. You remembered enough to tell me to ask Mom. She handled it. Handled what? He placed the wrench in a drawer and closed it. The disagreement. What disagreement? You already know. I know Kayla had Grandma's ring resized. I don't know what you and Mom did about it. Dad glanced toward the driveway, checking whether anyone could hear. That told me Mom had been part of it. Grandma called you, I said. He rubbed the side of his jaw. She called your mother and said, What? Talk to her. I drove away before he could close the garage. For several weeks, I said nothing. Logan reviewed his notes. I worked. Ricky and I went to dinner with friends and spent an entire evening discussing everything except my family. At home, I rehearsed questions in my head. I did it while brushing my teeth. I did it in the car. I did it while waiting for claim photographs to load. Did Grandma call you after the ring was resized? Did you know Kayla took it? Why did you tell me Grandma had it back? Why did you support the deathbed story? Every version ended the same way. Mom became offended. Dad asked for calm. I left without an answer. In September, Mom invited us to dinner. The invitation came through Dad because she still wasn't speaking to me directly. He said she wanted to clear the air. I told Ricky I needed to go alone. Are you sure? He asked. If you're there, Mom will make it about me involving you. You did involve me. I know. She'll still use it. He didn't like the idea, but he understood it. Before I left, I put the certified record in my purse. I didn't plan to show it. I wanted it near me. Mom made pot roast, which was the meal she cooked whenever she wanted the table to feel more loving than the conversation. Kayla and Nathan weren't there. Dad poured water. Mom carried the potatoes to the table and asked about work. We made it through almost 10 minutes of ordinary conversation. Then she said, Your father told me you questioned him in the garage. I asked him what happened in 2021. He doesn't remember every family disagreement. He remembered you handled it. Mom set down her fork. What do you want from us? The truth. We've told you the truth. Grandma called you after Kayla resized the ring. Dad looked at Mom. Mom looked at my purse. How do you know it was resized? She asked. I checked the service record named in the will. Her face lost color. Not much, but I saw it. What did they give you? She asked. That's your first question? I want to know what private information that store released. Did Grandma call you? Mom pushed her plate away. Yes. The word was quiet. Dad stopped eating. What did she say? She was upset. About the ring? Yes. Why? Mom looked at Dad again. He stared at his plate. Kayla had taken it to be sized. Did Grandma give her permission? She let Kayla look at it. That isn't permission. I know. It was the first time she'd said that. I kept both hands under the table. What did Grandma tell you exactly? Mom rubbed a spot near the edge of her napkin. She said Kayla came over while she was sorting jewelry. Kayla asked if she could try on the ring. Your grandmother let her take it home for a few days, and Kayla had it permanently altered. Yes, without asking. Mom nodded once. What did Kayla say when you confronted her? She said she was curious. That was the word she used at dinner. She said she wanted to know what it would look like if it fit. So she took Grandma's engagement ring, changed it for her own hand, and called that curiosity. Michelle, I'm not defending the way she did it. You defended it for 3 years. Dad spoke without looking up. We tried to resolve it. How? We talked to Kayla. Did she return the ring? Yes, Mom said quickly. She returned it. That surprised me. When? After Christine called. Why did you tell me Grandma had it back like that settled everything? Because she did have it back. But the band was still changed. Kayla offered to have it reversed. Did she? Your grandmother said no. Why? Mom's eyes moved toward the window. She was worried another repair would damage it. Timothy had said the same thing. Repeated sizing could affect an older band. Grandma had taken the ring back, but it no longer fit the hand she'd worn it on for decades. What happened after that? I asked. Christine put it away. And Kayla? She apologized. Did she? Dad finally looked at me. She said she was sorry Grandma was upset. That isn't the same thing. We know, he said. Mom gave him a sharp look. I turned to her. Did Grandma forgive her? She didn't want to discuss it again. That wasn't my question. She stayed angry longer than she should have. The answer was so revealing that I almost missed it. You thought Grandma was the problem. I thought she was holding on to something that couldn't be undone. The ring could have been returned to its original size and risk more damage. She could have decided that. She did decide. She left it alone. That doesn't mean she was fine. Mom pressed her fingers against her forehead. This is exactly what I didn't want. We are pulling apart one bad decision from years ago. No, I'm asking why you supported a lie after Grandma died. Dad's chair moved slightly. Mom lowered her hand. What lie? You knew Kayla had possessed that ring in 2021. You knew she had changed it to fit herself. Then she told everyone Grandma pressed it into her hand for the first time 1 week before she died. She didn't say it was the first time she ever touched it. I stared at Mom. That's what you're using? I'm saying both things can be true. No, they can't. Christine could still have given it to her later. Did she tell you she did? No. Did she tell Dad? No. Did anyone hear it except Kayla? No. Then why did you back her immediately? Mom's mouth tightened. Because I believed her. Why? She had the ring. She had taken it before. That was different. How? She returned it, after she was caught. Dad said, "Lower your voice." I wasn't shouting. I looked at him until he understood that, then I asked, "Why did you believe Kayla?" He didn't answer. Mom did, because Christine knew how much that ring meant to her. She knew how much it meant to Kayla because Kayla took it. That isn't fair. It's exactly what happened. Mom stood and collected our plates, though none of us had finished. She wanted it for her wedding someday, she said. She'd talked about that for years. Grandma was alive. It wasn't Kayla's decision. I know. Do you? Mom carried the plates to the sink. Kayla has always needed more reassurance than you. There it was again. The family excuse, only more honest. What does reassurance have to do with Grandma's ring? She wanted something that showed she was important to Christine. She wanted proof she was chosen. Mom turned on the water. Yes. I sat very still. Kayla hadn't taken the ring because she misunderstood alone. She had resized it because she wanted the ending in advance. She wanted to be the granddaughter who wore Grandma's ring at her wedding. When Grandma refused to give her that story, Kayla tried to make the ring fit the story anyway. Mom and Dad understood that. They also understood what taking it away would mean to her. So they made Grandma carry the discomfort instead. Did Kayla know the will named me? I asked. Mom shut off the water. Not until the reading. What did she say afterward? That Christine must have forgotten their conversation. Did you believe that? Mom began rinsing a plate that was already clean. I thought it was possible. No. What did you believe? She placed the plate in the rack. I believed Christine wrote the will while she was still hurt. The room went quiet. Dad looked at her. Mom didn't take it back. That was the complete answer. My parents knew Grandma had written the bequest after the resizing. They didn't know about the service ticket, but they understood the reason behind the decision. They simply thought her decision was unfair to Kayla. You believed Grandma left the ring to me because Kayla hurt her? I said. Yes. And you decided that shouldn't count. I decided grief shouldn't dictate what happened to a family keepsake. It was her keepsake. It belongs to the family now. The will says it belongs to me. Mom turned from the sink. You have a husband, you have a house, you have a career. Kayla wanted one thing that connected her to Grandma. I had those things in 2022. Grandma still named me. You don't even wear yellow gold. I almost laughed. That's your reason? I'm saying the ring means something different to Kayla because she decided it did. She's your sister, and Grandma was your mother. Mom flinched. Dad put both hands flat on the table. We didn't want another fight, so you backed Kayla. We wanted peace. No, you wanted Grandma's objection to disappear because she couldn't repeat it. Dad looked away. Mom's face tightened, but she didn't deny it. I stood and picked up my purse. Does Kayla know I have the service record? Mom crossed her arms. She knows you contacted the store. That wasn't my question. No, I haven't told her what you found. Don't. Why? Because I want to decide what I do with it. She's getting married, I know. You could ruin this for her. I didn't resize the ring. Mom followed me toward the door. Please, Michelle, let her have this. I put on my coat. You asked me why I couldn't let her have one meaningful thing. I was upset. You meant it. She didn't answer. I opened the door. Dad spoke from the dining room. What happens now? I looked back at both of them. For weeks, I had rehearsed a confrontation where I showed them every page. I imagined laying Kayla's signature on the table and forcing them to admit what it meant. I didn't take the record from my purse. You already chose what happens, I said. Then I went home, placed the certified copy in our fireproof document box, and waited for Logan to finish reviewing the estate file. He had already matched one important detail in August. The service ticket was the exact record Grandma referenced when she signed the will. What he hadn't finished was checking whether Mom had closed the ring's bequest through some later filing. In October, he asked me to come to his office. The trees along Lake Street had started turning. Wet leaves stuck to the stairs outside the bookstore. I carried the certified ticket in my work bag, though Logan already had a scanned copy. He had Grandma's estate file open on his desk. The ring remains unresolved, he said. What does that mean in normal language? It means Denise never completed the paperwork for that specific bequest. Because I didn't sign the acknowledgement? That helped preserve your objection, but the issue existed before that. Kayla took possession without documenting a transfer through the estate. She was wearing it before the will reading. Yes. Mom reported it as a gift made before death. She reported Kayla's claim. She didn't provide proof of the gift. I sat across from him. So who owns it? The estate still recognizes Christine as the last documented owner. The will directs the ring to you. Then why didn't you make Kayla surrender it in February? Because she asserted that Christine gave it away before death. A will can't distribute property the deceased no longer owned, but she had no proof, and you had no evidence challenging the timing until you found the ticket. I took the certified pages from my bag. This proves she had it in 2021. It proves more than possession. He placed the intake ticket beside Grandma's will. The dates sat less than a year apart. Kayla requested the resizing in August of 2021. Grandma requested the service history in February of 2022. She met with Logan in May of 2022. She signed the updated will in June. Logan pointed to a note from that May meeting. Grandma's words weren't quoted. but his summary was clear. Client wishes ring identified by jeweler's existing service history do dispute over prior alteration and possession. I read it twice. That's why you wouldn't show me the note before. I needed to confirm whether it referred to the same record, and it does. Yes. Did Grandma tell you Kayla took it? She told me the ring had been altered without her approval. Did she name Kayla? She directed me to the service record. The record named Kayla. Why didn't she write all of that in the will? Because wills usually identify property and recipients. They don't argue with future witnesses. But this one points to the proof. Yes. The answer was finally direct. Grandma had known a spoken accusation would become a family debate. Mom would explain Kayla. Dad would ask everyone to move on. Kayla would say Grandma misunderstood. So Grandma attached her decision to the shop's own file. I touched the edge of the will. Does Kayla's signature decide this? It defeats the idea that her possession began with an undocumented gift days before Christine died. It also identifies the same altered ring Christine later bequeathed to you. Could Kayla still claim Grandma gave it to her after signing the will? She can claim anything. She would need evidence. She has Mom and Dad. They didn't witness a transfer. They'll say they believed her. Belief is an observation. I looked at Logan's drafting note. What happens if we challenge her now? I send formal notice to Denise and Kayla. If Kayla refuses to surrender the ring, the estate can ask the probate court to determine the specific bequest. How long would that take? Months, possibly longer. And the wedding becomes the family explanation for everything. That is likely. I pictured Mom telling people I had dragged my sister into court because I couldn't tolerate her happiness. Do I need to decide today? No. Can the estate close without the ring? The remaining administration can continue. I'll keep this item open. Is there a final deadline? There are procedural deadlines, but none that require action today. I'll notify you before anything changes. I return the certified copy to its sleeve. Then don't send notice yet. Logan studied me. Are you hoping Kayla admits it? No. What are you waiting for? I don't know yet. That wasn't entirely true. I wanted to see what Kayla did when nobody stopped her. If I confronted her privately, she would adjust the story. She'd say Grandma approved the resizing. She'd call the final gift a separate event. Mom and Dad would help her find softer wording. The service ticket would become one more family disagreement. I wasn't willing to let that happen. For the rest of the year, I said nothing about the file. Thanksgiving was held at Mom and Dad's house. Kayla wore Grandma's ring on her right hand and her engagement ring on her left. She caught me looking once. Then she laid both hands flat beside her plate. No one mentioned the will. At Christmas, Mom gave Kayla a framed copy of Grandma's handwritten pie recipe. Kayla cried. Dad took photographs. I stayed for dessert and left before they opened another bottle of wine. In January, Kayla mailed formal wedding invitations. Mine arrived 4 days after Mom asked whether I'd received it. The envelope named Ricky and me as guests. I wasn't included in the wedding party. Ricky read the invitation and said, "Do you want to go?" Yes. He looked surprised. I'm not saying I want to enjoy it. That sounds more like you. By March, nearly a year had passed since Kayla announced the engagement. On a Tuesday afternoon, Timothy called my cell. "I need to ask you something about Christine's ring," he said. I closed the claim file on my computer. What happened? Kayla brought it in. For the wedding appraisal? Yes. I looked at the date. Is she still there? No. She left it with us. What did she request? A current insurance appraisal and inspection. The venue requires documentation. Did she sign another intake ticket? Yes. What name did she use? Her own. I stood and closed my office door. Did she tell you where she got it? She said it was a gift from Christine. Did she give a date? She repeated the same account you heard, 1 week before Christine died. Is that written down? It's included in the ownership history she provided for the appraisal. That was the deadline none of us had understood the year before. Kayla needed a current document for the venue. To get it, she had put her deathbed story into Snyder and Sons records. What did you tell her? I asked. I said I needed to review the prior file before completing the appraisal. Did she know what you meant? She asked why an old repair mattered. What did you say? That our policy requires us to cross-reference significant pieces against existing records. How did she react? She said the old work had nothing to do with ownership. That meant she remembered the work. She might not know I had the ticket, but she knew what Timothy could find. Did she take the ring back? No. Why not? I told her the inspection would take several days. I lowered my voice. What are you going to do? I called Logan before I called you. And he asked me not to issue an appraisal until he reviews the estate file. Can he do that? He can alert me to a disputed ownership claim. I decide what I can responsibly certify. What would you normally certify? The physical description, condition, and replacement value. We also identify the person presenting the item and any ownership information provided. So if you write Kayla's story into the appraisal, she can use it as support. That's my concern. I looked through the glass wall of my office. 2 coworkers were discussing lunch near the printer. Does Kayla know you called Logan? No. Does she know the estate item is still open? I didn't tell her. Will you? I need Logan's guidance. The call ended with Timothy promising not to alter, release, or appraise the ring until the record conflict was addressed. Logan called that evening. Kayla's new intake ticket creates a current service record, he said. Does that replace the old one? For appraisal purposes, it becomes the most recent entry. It does not erase the earlier ticket. But the will says the most recent service record. The will refers to the record existing when Christine made the bequest. My drafting notes establish that. So Kayla can't change the result by bringing it in again. No. I sat at our kitchen table while Ricky listened from across the room. What happens now? I'll instruct Timothy to describe the history accurately. The estate item will be reactivated for formal review. I thought it was already open. It remained unresolved. Reactivating it means the ring is now physically located, documented, and connected to the open bequest. Can Kayla take it from the store? She is the person who delivered it. Timothy can't simply give it to you. He also shouldn't release it without noting the dispute. Will she be told? Yes, when? After I send the written notice. That notice went out in April. Logan copied me on it. The letter was short. It said Christine's engagement ring matched the item described in the unresolved specific bequest. Snyder and Sons held service records from 2021 and 2025. Until the ownership issue was settled, any appraisal had to state that the ring remained subject to estate review. It didn't accuse Kayla of theft. It didn't mention what I planned to do. It simply placed every date on one official path. 3 days later, Kayla collected the ring. Timothy released it because the store had no authority to keep her property indefinitely. He gave her an appraisal describing her as the presenting customer, not the verified owner. The appraisal also referenced an unresolved estate interest. Bluffside's insurer wouldn't accept it that way. Kayla needed the ownership question settled before the ring could be covered under the venue's special jewelry rider. For the first time, keeping the ring required more than our parents believing her. Kayla responded by calling Mom. Mom responded by inviting me to dinner. The invitation came in May, 1 month before the wedding. She said Kayla and Nathan would be there, but it wasn't about the ring. That meant it was about the ring. Ricky came with me this time. When we arrived, Kayla was arranging place cards around Mom's dining table. Place cards? I asked. Mom thought we should practice the seating. For 6 people? For the rehearsal dinner? Nathan looked embarrassed. She's testing whether the blue ink is readable. It is, I said. Kayla removed my card and replaced it with another version. No one asked you. Dinner stayed polite until Dad finished his second helping. Then Mom placed both hands beside her plate. We need to settle something before the wedding. Kayla looked at Nathan as if this was unexpected. He kept his eyes on Mom. I put down my fork. What needs settling? The jeweler's paperwork, Mom said. The venue won't add the ring to the insurance. The appraisal says there's an unresolved estate interest. We know what it says, then you know why. Kayla leaned forward. I already told Timothy it was a gift. I'm aware. Her eyes narrowed. How are you aware? Logan copied me on the notice. You had no right to interfere with my appraisal. I didn't. You contacted the store first, because the will told me to. Mom raised one hand. Let's stay calm. Ricky looked down at his plate. I knew he was hiding a reaction. Nathan spoke carefully. What exactly would resolve it? Kayla answered before I could. Michelle signs that she isn't claiming the ring. Nathan looked at me. Is that true? It would help Kayla's position. That wasn't my question. No, it wouldn't change the older records or Grandma's will. Kayla's chair scraped the floor. The older record is a repair ticket. It's a resizing ticket. Same thing. It isn't. Mom said, nobody cares what type of repair it was. Grandma cared. Kayla turned to Nathan. See what she does? She takes one sentence and makes it sound sinister. Nathan didn't answer. He'd been told a simpler version. I could see that now. What did Kayla tell you about the resizing? I asked him. Mom interrupted. We are not putting Nathan in the middle. He's insuring the ring for his wedding. Our wedding, Kayla said. Yes. Nathan wiped his mouth with his napkin. She said Christine had the ring adjusted for her. When? Before she gave it to her. I looked at Kayla. That's not what happened. You weren't there, she said. Were you there when Grandma asked for the service history? Kayla's face changed. She recovered quickly. I have no idea what she asked for. She requested it after you altered the ring, because she wanted an updated record. Is that what she told you? Mom pressed her palm against the table. Enough. The room went quiet. She looked at me. Let it go before the wedding. Not for Grandma's sake. Not because Kayla had proof. Before the wedding. That was the real deadline for my parents. They wanted the paperwork buried before Nathan's family noticed it. I asked Mom, do you know what the 2021 ticket says? She looked toward Dad. He stared at his water. You told us the general issue, she said. I told you Kayla signed it. Yes. Did you tell Nathan? Mom didn't answer. Neither did Kayla. Nathan turned toward her. You signed what? A repair intake. In your name? I was dropping it off. He looked at me. Does the record say Christine owned it? It describes it as a family ring and says Kayla claimed Grandma approved the sizing. I did have approval, Kayla said. Then why was Grandma hurt? She wasn't hurt. Mom closed her eyes. The silence after that was small but important. Kayla looked at her. What? Mom opened her eyes. Christine was upset at first. Nathan leaned back. You told me she planned the resizing with you. She got over it. That's different. I was trying to simplify an old argument. He looked around the table. Nobody thought I should know this? Dad finally spoke. It didn't seem relevant to the wedding. Nathan gave a short, humorless laugh. It's part of the insurance application I signed. Kayla reached for his hand. We can remove the ring from the rider. He pulled his hand back to lift his glass. I couldn't tell whether the movement was intentional. Mom looked at me again. If you won't sign anything, at least agree not to raise this at the wedding. I don't plan to discuss it during the wedding. The rehearsal dinner, too, Kayla said. I met her eyes. Why would it come up? Because you find ways. I didn't invite the jeweler. Mom shifted in her chair. Timothy and his wife had been invited because the Snyder family had known ours for decades. Logan had been invited for the same reason. Grandma had trusted both men, and Mom wanted people connected to her at the dinner. Kayla had approved the guest list before the appraisal problem surfaced. Now removing them would invite questions. Timothy knows how to behave socially, Mom said. So do I. Kayla shook her head. This is supposed to be the happiest weekend of my life. Then enjoy it. You say that like a threat. It wasn't. Dinner ended early. In the car, Ricky waited until we reached the next block. Nathan didn't know. No, he knows some of it now. Yes. Are you still going to the rehearsal dinner? Yes. He glanced at me. Are you bringing the ticket? Yes. After the appraisal conflict, Logan had advised me to carry the certified copy anywhere the ring might be represented for insurance or ownership purposes. That was the practical reason. There was another reason. Kayla had spent more than a year repeating her story whenever the ring appeared. If she chose to repeat it at the rehearsal dinner, she would know the record existed. She would know Grandma had objected. She would know Nathan had heard enough to question her. Whatever she said after that would be deliberate. The rehearsal dinner took place at the Bluffside Inn on a Friday evening in June. The venue sat outside Petoskey, close enough to the water that the windows reflected the lake. The dining room had white walls, navy tablecloths, and low arrangements of pale flowers. Mom arrived early and checked every place setting. Dad stayed near the bar with Nathan's father. Kayla wore a light blue dress. Her new engagement ring was on her left hand. Grandma's ring was on her right. She saw me notice it. "I'm wearing it at my own risk," she said. I didn't ask. The venue said that's allowed. It just isn't covered under their rider. All right. So don't make a face. I'm standing here. Ricky touched my elbow and guided me toward our table. Timothy and his wife were seated near the windows. Logan sat 2 places away from them. When Timothy saw the ring, his expression didn't change. Logan looked at me once. I gave him no signal. The certified ticket was inside a flat envelope in my purse. I had also brought a certified copy of the will clause. Logan carried the estate file because the unresolved item was still active. None of it had been coordinated as a presentation. I hadn't asked for a speech. I hadn't asked anyone to confront Kayla. The dinner moved through salad, whitefish, and speeches. Nathan's brother told a story about a camping trip. Mom talked about Kayla planning pretend weddings when she was younger. She always knew exactly what she wanted, Mom said. That was the truest sentence she gave all night. Near the end of dinner, Nathan stood and thanked everyone for coming. He spoke warmly about Grandma, though he hadn't known her long. Then Kayla joined him. She rested one hand against his arm. The old ring caught the light. "I wish Grandma could be here," she said. She knew Nathan was the one before I did. I watched Nathan. His smile looked careful. Kayla continued. "The week before we lost her, I visited her alone. She was tired, but completely clear. She took this ring and pressed it into my hand. She lifted her right hand so both families could see it. She said, 'You wear this when you marry him, and you'll know I'm with you.'" That quotation was new. At the will reading, Kayla had only claimed Grandma gave her the ring. Online, she said it happened shortly before the death. Now Grandma had dialogue. Mom looked down at her plate. Dad reached for his water glass and missed it slightly. Kayla smiled at the room. "This ring has been in my family since 1968. Tomorrow it'll be with me when I become Nathan's wife." People murmured. Nathan's mother wiped her eyes. I said nothing. Kayla lowered her hand, satisfied. She had been warned about the old record. She knew her parents couldn't honestly support the full story. She knew Nathan had learned about the resizing. She told it anyway. Then Nathan's aunt, seated near Timothy, turned toward him. "You're the family jeweler, aren't you?" she asked. Timothy set down his coffee cup. "I am." She pointed gently toward Kayla's hand. "How long have you been taking care of that ring?" Timothy looked toward Kayla before answering. "Our store first serviced it for Christine many years ago." Kayla smiled. "There you go." Timothy continued. The most relevant service occurred in August of 2021. The room quieted. Kayla lowered her hand. Nathan's aunt asked, "What happened then?" Timothy didn't answer immediately. He looked at me. That was my choice. I reached into my purse and removed the envelope. Ricky moved his chair back so I could stand. Kayla's voice sharpened. "Michelle, don't." I walked to Timothy's table and placed the certified intake ticket in front of him. "Is this your store's record?" I asked. He examined the stamp and signature. "Yes." "Would you read the customer name?" Kayla stood. "This is completely inappropriate." Nathan remained seated. Let him answer. Timothy looked around the table. "The customer named on the intake ticket is Kayla Ortiz." Nobody moved. "What's the date?" I asked. "August of 2021. Nathan's mother frowned. That was before Christine died? Nearly 3 years before, I said. Kayla crossed her arms. I took it in for Grandma. I pointed to the service description. Please read what she requested. Timothy kept his voice level. Permanently resize band to customer's measured right ring finger. Inspect setting. Clean and polish. Nathan looked at Kayla's right hand. She closed her fingers around the ring. I already explained that. Grandma wanted to see how it looked, Timothy said. The work required reducing the band by more than 1 full size and adding gold because of its condition. So? Kayla said. So it wasn't curiosity, I said. Mom whispered, Michelle, please sit down. I didn't look at her. Kayla turned toward the room. Grandma approved the resizing. Then, later, she gave me the ring. Both things can be true. That was the adjusted story I'd expected. I removed the certified will clause and placed it beside the service ticket. Logan, can you confirm what Grandma's will says? He stood and came to the table. Kayla stared at him. You're seriously doing this here? Logan read the clause exactly as written. I give my engagement ring, as sized and appraised in Snyder & Son's most recent service record, to my granddaughter, Michelle Ortiz. Nathan's father asked, Which service record does that mean? The record on this table, Logan said. Christine requested its history in February of 2022. She discussed that record with me in May. She signed the updated will in June. Kayla's face went pale. You told me that clause didn't matter because Grandma gave it to me later. I told you an authenticated later gift could affect a bequest. You haven't provided evidence of one. I'm wearing the evidence. Possession isn't proof of the date or circumstances. Kayla looked at Timothy. Did Grandma tell you I wasn't allowed to have it? She told me the alteration wasn't approved. The silence became complete. Kayla shook her head. She was confused. No, Logan said. She was precise. She deliberately tied the bequest to this exact store record. Nathan picked up the intake ticket. His eyes moved from the date to Kayla's signature. You told me she had it adjusted for you. She did. This says you requested it. Because she asked me to handle it. Timothy said Christine wasn't present. Kayla turned on him. You don't know what she told me at home. No, he said. I only know what you signed in my store. Nathan placed the ticket back on the table. Then he looked at my parents. Did you know about the resizing? Mom stared at her plate. Dad held his water glass with both hands. Nathan asked again, Denise, Barry? Did you know? Neither of them said a word. They didn't defend Kayla. They didn't repeat the deathbed story. They didn't claim Grandma had been confused. They went quiet. Kayla looked around the room and understood what their silence meant. You're all making this sound like I stole it. I folded the certified will copy. You took it without permission, changed it for your hand, and waited until Grandma died to claim she chose you. She did choose me. Then why did she write the record into her will afterward? Kayla had no answer. I returned both documents to my envelope. Nathan stood. We need to talk outside. Kayla looked at him. Tomorrow is our wedding. I know. This is my rehearsal dinner. I know that too. He walked toward the doors overlooking the water. After a few seconds, Kayla followed him. Nobody clapped. Nobody shouted. The room simply broke into low conversations. Mom approached me near the window. Was that what you wanted? No, you could have handled it privately. I tried. You asked me to sign it away. Her mouth tightened. Your sister may never forgive you. That's her decision. Dad came over but didn't speak. For once, I didn't help him. The wedding went forward the next afternoon. Kayla wore her new engagement ring. Grandma's ring wasn't part of the ceremony, the photographs, or the table display she had planned. Nathan married her, though the warmth between them had changed. He later told Ricky that he needed time to understand how easily Kayla had turned a family argument into a story he repeated as fact. I didn't ask for details. In July, Logan filed the service ticket and drafting record with the final probate paperwork. Kayla's claimed deathbed gift had no witness, receipt, letter, or message supporting it. Grandma's will had a signed record created by Kayla herself. The specific bequest closed in my favor. Kayla surrendered the ring through Logan's office. She didn't hand it to me personally. Bluffside's insurance paperwork was corrected afterward. The writer listed me as the owner because probate had finally settled the item. It no longer mattered for the wedding, but the accurate record mattered to the venue. Mom called me twice during that month. I answered the second time. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" There was a pause. "For asking you to let it go. That's part of it. I thought keeping the family together was more important. You meant keeping Kayla comfortable." Mom didn't argue. "I don't know how to fix this," she said. "You don't fix it by asking me to forget it. What do I do?" Tell the truth the first time. Even when she gets upset. We didn't become close after that call. I saw my parents at holidays, usually for a few hours. Dad apologized later for staying silent when Grandma needed him to speak. I accepted that he said it. I didn't pretend it repaired everything. Kayla and I had no contact for several months. Eventually, she sent a short message. I was wrong about how I handled the ring. She didn't mention the lie at the rehearsal dinner. She didn't mention Grandma's hurt. I replied, "When you're ready to name all of it, we can talk." She hasn't yet. I took the ring back to Snyder & Sons. Timothy rebuilt the lower band to Grandma's original size. I paid for the work myself. I don't wear it. It stays in Grandma's blue velvet box inside our fireproof document safe. Sometimes I take it out and hold it by the band. I think about Grandma asking whether the store kept records permanently. She knew our family would argue with her memory, so she left something they couldn't argue with. Truth doesn't always need the loudest person. Sometimes it only needs a date, a signature, and someone willing to read them aloud. Please subscribe and tell me which city you're watching from.